Welcome to the Nxtpro Show. I'm Matt Reynolds, your host, and today we have 5, and that's right, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 exciting stops to talk about all across the United States. We'll start in Boston today, we'll go to Atlanta, Rockford, Dallas, and Los Angeles. There's so much to talk about, both on the girls' side and the boys' side, and this show is provided and brought to you so that you can get everything that you need to be caught up on what happened this week. Today is a special edition. We are recording this on Sunday afternoon as games are just wrapping up across the country. A lot of teams still fighting for that 4-0 tag. We will get to that later in the show. But first stop we wanted to make is out east, and we're going to go to Boston and bring on Will Harper. Samaj Pinder really had a fabulous weekend showing off his versatility. Just as you look at his game, he's someone that really in session 1 made a big standout.
Samaj has been one of the big stock risers here in session 1 in Boston. At 6'6", he's very positionless. You can't label him a guard. You can't label him a wing or anything like that due to his ball handling ability on the offensive end. And defensively, he can really guard the 1 through the 4, the 1 through the 5 at this level. And I think at the college level, he'll definitely be able to guard the 1 through the 4 positions. And then, like I said, on the offensive end of the ball, he can be on both ends of a pick and roll look. He can be the ball handler or the roll man. He's very savvy in snaking those ball screens, getting that low man to play high, the low big man. And then he's great at finding gaps in the defense, finding gaps in help defense, and kicking it out to shooters on the perimeter. Said on the defensive end, extremely versatile, extremely active hands, creates a lot of extra possessions for his squad through deflections, transition opportunities. As his stock continues to rise in this circuit, I definitely think that he can sneak his way into a high-level program at the conclusion of his high school career.
All in Elite 17U was a club that made a very, very strong impression, particularly with their 17U squad.
Most definitely. From what I've been told, it's All in Elite's first year as a program based out of Stamford, Connecticut. And I mean, before you even see them play, you see the professionalism by their coaches. You see the professionalism that their even players handles themselves with. And then when you get on the court, all of their players are on the same page. Their point guards know when their wings are going to cut to the basket. They know what angle their guards want the screen to be so the guard can get downhill. The big men, they know what angle they should roll at so they can get hit on that roll by their guards. Everybody's on the same page, like I said. And what really stuck out to me for them as a program was when I got here on Saturday morning at about 7:20 a.m., I didn't expect really any teams to be warming up. And All in Elite was out here doing defensive slides and closeouts. And it wasn't like bad effort either. Very intense, very high effort defensive slides that early in the morning, and it transfers onto their on-court play.
No, that type of stuff goes a long, long way. You've got to be prepared. And if you're watching this and maybe you didn't play in session 1 or maybe you did, preparation is a big part of this. And we saw all across, I was at multiple locations this week. Will, it really comes down to if you're prepared, you'll play your best. One of the teams that was very prepared was the NJ Bulldogs, and Jameer Westry really elevates them to a whole different level.
100%. Jameer Westry is a college basketball ready player, in my opinion, especially once he gets on a college strength and conditioning routine. He'll make an immediate impact at the next level. But just an overall well-coached squad. Big shout-out to Coach Malcolm and Coach Trey over there. They do a great job. If you watch them coach, they have the same, if not better, intensity than the players on the court. And it's nothing new to see them in a pool of sweat after the game just based on how intense they are on the sideline. The way that New Jersey Bulldogs are wired on defense, you can't just pick up players and have them wired on defense like that. That has to be repped out. And it's clear that New Jersey Bulldogs has put in the reps. Another guy I want to shout out is Jabron Harris, a 6'4" big guard for New Jersey Bulldogs. Has a brother that played at Seton Hall previously. Just a big-time player, big-time big guard, like I said. Wide crossover, can create his own shot, plays well in space, plays well without space, but he'll create space for himself and create for others as well.
No doubt. No, that's a club that we'll keep our eye on. And again, it's just session 1. It's really early, but great opportunities obviously come across the board. Cordell West is another prospect that really just, from a scoring perspective, was one of the lead scorers across the tournament this weekend.
100%. Cordell is the lifeblood of his team. He's got some good players around him, but he's just a pure scorer at heart. He's going to find his production one way or the other, whether he's faced by double teams any type of ball screen coverage. He's going to read it, and he's going to get to the rim no matter what. He's got everything, multi-level scorer. He's got the pull-up mid-range. He's got limitless range from beyond three. And on the defensive end, he's just a pest. He's a ball hawk, great ball instincts, always lurking in passing lanes. Another guy that creates a lot of extra possessions for his team. And he's helped his team to a couple wins this weekend. And he's doing all this with a cast on his wrist as well. So I think that's a testament to his toughness and grit as a player.
Wow. Yeah. Cast on the wrist, that's not something you see most of the time, and especially to be able to score that well. I've had a broken arm at one point in my life, and I can tell you playing basketball would probably not be the best. And, it gets all itchy and stuff. Yeah, that's just not the best. Not the best. Mackenzie Prince is another player that really just seems to burst on the scene this week. Not a guy that we knew a whole lot about coming into this weekend, but now, we know very well who Mr. Prince is.
Most definitely. Mackenzie Prince had himself a great weekend coming out of Toronto Select 16U. He's a 2027 prospect, and he's going to continue being a rising name in our circuit. I really love his pace, especially off the pick and roll. Another guy that is extremely dangerous off ball screens. He's able to snake those ball screens, makes excellent reads. He's got some great teammates around him. His teammate Lawrence, 6'9", 300-pound big man. They've got a lot of great pieces, but Mackenzie is the lifeblood there. The point guard won, and he makes it happen for him.
One of my favorite games to look on this week was Palmetto Pride versus Toronto Select. And obviously I wasn't in the building in Boston this week, but it seemed like that one had a great atmosphere and obviously ended up being a fabulous game as well.
Most definitely, yes. So like I wrote down in my notes, Palmetto Pride, they went off on a very large lead to begin the game. Personally, I thought the game was over, but I was just going to stick it out. And I'm happy I did stick it out because Toronto, they chipped away. They chipped away in the whole first half. We're coming from behind. And then a great performance from Mackenzie Prince and Lawrence, the big fella. But no, in the second half, it was back and forth the whole time. Things could have gotten a little bit chippy, very physical game. And Toronto Select actually had multiple chances to win at the end of the game. On the last possession, had second and third chances, but Palmetto forced overtime. And then in overtime, Tay Hildebrand had a great layup to win the game for him in front of the whole Toronto Select program. Toronto Select stormed him after. It was really beautiful to see, and it's definitely a moment that he'll remember for the rest of his life.
Yeah, those are the moments that we cherish on this circuit. Well, I'll leave you with this. My last question for you is, what's your lasting impression of this week? You're in the Northeast for session one. Like I talked about earlier, there's 5 sessions going on right now, or 5 tournaments going on right now in session one. What is your lasting impression leaving Boston?
High-level shot creation, impressive transition basketball, and consistent effort. Those are my 3 big takeaways that I saw pretty much universally around here. We're in the Northeast, and I didn't expect anything else, like I said. But everybody can create a shot for themselves. Everybody can create space for themselves. And it's not on bad defenders either. I mean, it's a lot of really, really great defenders out here, a lot of laterally sound players. And then transition-wise, the pace of these games are extremely quick. Off the rebound, players are looking for that outlet man immediately, and they're very savvy in doing so. A lot of very athletic players, quick first steps, and then just consistent effort on the boards. And it's very refreshing as a basketball guy to see that, 5'8" guards fighting 6'8" big men just for an offensive rebound. It's beautiful to see. But very gritty, physical basketball out here. Great basketball. Everybody knows there's always eyes on them, and everybody always knows there's an opportunity that can change their life.
Well, that's one of the things about our circuit that I just love is, obviously, you're in the Northeast. There's a lot of Northeast teams with ties, regionally to that event. But as we go throughout the season, we're going to see those same Northeast teams have to go play the Midwest teams and the West Coast teams and the South teams. And there's just so many different styles of basketball geographically. Even our circuit, we've got Australia, Japan, China, Mexico, and even obviously Canada represented very well. So there's a lot to be discovered. We appreciate your time for today. We look forward to talking to you many more times throughout the sessions. Thanks so much, Will.
For sure. Thank you.
That was Will Harper checking in there on Boston. What a great event it was. As you can hear it in the background there a little bit, it is wrapping up. He's on his last set of games. We are going to get to the undefeated team list for Boston, as well as all of the other sessions that we had throughout session 1 here. 5 big tournaments, both with the girls event in Rockford, which we're getting ready to talk about, and so much more. But first, we're going to take our opening timeout. Coming up next, don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking to Chase Coley about everything that happened in the girls event in Rockford, Illinois. Welcome back. It's the Nxtpro Show. I'm Matt Reynolds, and for our next guest, like I said before the break, we go out to Rockford, Illinois, and are talking with Chase Coley. She is the director of our girls circuit that is growing. Hello, Chase. Chase, big weekend. We obviously had an event in LA that had girls. You were in Rockford, the bigger event there. A lot of talent was displayed, but I got to start with the team that I was most impressed with from afar, which was the Iowa Battlers, who seemed to have one of the best weeks across the circuit on the girls' side.
Yeah, the Battlers came out really strong. They've got a solid group of girls. They got a couple of twins on the team. The Phillips girls had an undefeated high school season, won their state championship. It was awesome seeing the Battler girls out there just really doing their thing and kind of showcasing all their talent. They really came out strong this year on the circuit and really hope to make a splash the rest of the season. I think one of the big standouts this weekend for the Battlers was Julia Van Kern. She's got a 6'2" long wingspan, phenomenal shot blocker. Not just block your shot, but block it, go get it, and push the ball down the court. She's a great threat inside and out. I really like her 15-foot range. One dribble for her because she's so long, she can get to the bucket, but if you leave her open out on the 3, she's going to knock that down too. One of the twins, Ari Phillips, class of 2027, phenomenal first step, great on-ball defender. And what I really like best about her is her dribble penetration. She can get to the bucket when she wants, but she has the IQ on whether or not to go up and get that finish that she's really good at. But she also has a great ability to find her teammates open. So I think the Battlers just did such a good job of moving the ball and being unselfish, but also when it was in their hands, making sure that they finished that play. So just an all-around great performance by all the Battlers teams this weekend.
Pink Elite was another club that just had a fantastic week as a club across the board, and seems to be one of the stronger programs that we have in the Midwest.
Pink Elite is such an exciting club to me. I really love the director, Chelsea. I think she does such a great job of, like, if you go watch any of the Pink Elite games, you see the rest of the Pink Elite club on the sideline cheering them, like cheering each other on, getting each other hype, cheering defense the whole time. They have just such a great culture in their club, and I think that really resonates out on the court. I think one of their players this weekend that really impressed me was Catherine Skinner. She's a 2026. She's a 5'10" small guard, small forward. She's a versatile scorer. She's got a really smooth shot from the perimeter, and her just mechanics and her defensive discipline are phenomenal. So I think she had a really great all-around weekend and really stood out in Pink Elite's program and part of their success this weekend.
Well, you mentioned coaching, and obviously Pink Elite, one of the better coaching staffs, Chapman basketball. I think they fit that mold as well.
Yeah, I really love Joe Chapman's groups. The Chapman girls, one thing that I can say for every single one of those teams is they're not scared of a fight. Those girls come out and they're the first ones on the floor to every loose ball. They've got some like tiny but mighties in their program, and those little girls are not scared to go up and rebound against anybody. They got good mechanics. They're going to go box out. They're diving on the floor for everything. They run hard the whole game. They had a few close games across the board at all age groups, and in every single one of those games, those girls don't stop fighting until the score is all zero, or until the clock is all zero. It's like Chapman basketball from top to bottom. Those girls got heart. They run hard.
The Wisconsin Shooters is another group that had a pretty big week. Maddie Brown specifically, though, some outstanding performances from her.
Yeah, 5'11" Maddie Brown. She's a 2026. She had a phenomenal weekend. She had a couple games where she was just right on the cusp of getting a double-double. One of her games this weekend. She got 9.7 rebounds, but just all around, she is a weapon for them offensively, defensively. She's a great teammate. She's a good leader out there. She just looks very confident and competent on the court, and she had a really phenomenal weekend. I think she's a really great versatile player.
Just speaking across, all the games, what did you see from the style of play, stylistically? We talked with Trey earlier, and obviously there's an event out in LA, coming up, and as you look throughout the circuit, you're going to see West Coast teams play these Midwest teams and vice versa, playing the Northeast teams. What was the play style overall from the teams?
I think what I noticed the most and what was so impressive to me was like the transition offensive basketball. Like as soon as someone got a rebound, you had a few girls that obviously people know their different limits and skills. If it was a girl who it was just a lot of high IQ plays where it's like, okay, I know I'm getting the ball out, like I'm getting the ball off this rebound, or if they score, I'm getting it out of bounds and I'm pushing the ball up the court. Any girl that had the ability to handle the ball and go to rim was very high paced, fast paced ball where they were getting the ball, going to the other end, having other teammates transition with them, just making the smart play, knowing whether to go up and finish and knowing they could get that through contact, or making the smart read and dishing it to their other teammate trailing down. I think the transition offense game was extremely impressive this weekend.
What players stood out to you as the most college-ready players? Obviously, the live period getting ready to come up here in less than a month, actually. End of April, we're in Norman. What were the players that really stood out to you as a former Division I high major player yourself that you said, hey, they're going to be able to make an instant impact in college?
Yeah, I think there was a few players. I mentioned Julia Van Kern with the Iowa Battlers already. I think Lania Davis, 2026 from City Elite. She's 5'8". She is just an elite athlete. She's got just a lot of strength and speed, and she's just got a slasher mentality out on the court. She's only 5'8", but she rebounds like she's 6 foot plus. She's just tenacious on both the offensive and defensive rebounding ends. Layla Edmonds, another 2026 with City Elite, 5'10", excellent athleticism, a really strong finishing ability, good finesse and soft touch that I think contributes to that great finishing ability.
My gosh. Chase, sorry, I got to pause you. That was a half-court buzzer beater. Goodness gracious. You don't see that very often.
No, we had some really close games where like even just little things like that where it came down to a few points at the end where it's like, okay, I'm glad we played hard through the end of the half and made sure we got that extra shot up because we needed it down the line. But no, we had some really awesome playmakers throughout the entire weekend. But yeah, Layla Edmonds, like I said, she can really play all 5 positions at the high school level. So it was awesome to see some of the girls out there. Another standout that I was really excited about was Abijay Peters, again, with the Iowa Battlers. I think she's a kid who could go out and immediately make an impact on a college team. She isn't afraid. She's one of those kids who, in the transition game, was grabbing it and she was gone. She was the first one down the court with the ball in her hand. If defense, when they finally started picking up on it in some of the games and her other teammates were trailing, just real crafty and smart about finding the open 3-point shooter in the corner, dropping into the post that was trailing to get that easier finish if there was a bigger guard on her that was guarding her in that transition. So another standout player, Abijay Peters, for sure.
Chase, we'll leave you with this. Any early favorites to win the league from what you saw this week?
Ooh, a team that me and Beecham were really excited about, a program that we thought has really stepped it up this year, Wisconsin Shooters. Like, they came out hungry, ready to play. I know with spring break, there's always like 1 or 2 pieces of the puzzle missing because families go on vacation and stuff. So I think there's a few squads out there that once they have their whole squad in the gym, and, it just takes a second to kind of get that continuity, that transition from high school to club ball. So I think Wisconsin Shooters has made a huge improvement since last year with just their talent pool on the court and just like their tenacity as well. I think the Battlers, like mentioned them multiple times now, they're really strong contenders. And then City Elite as well. I think City Elite really came out and showcased, okay, like we've got some girls that could be college ready right now. So just seeing these teams as the summer goes on, like I said, getting that flow and rhythm, I think by the time Orlando rolls around, it's going to be a dogfight for that championship.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Well, Chase, keep up the great work. Where can we catch you next week? Where's the next for the girls?
Next weekend, we are going to be in Monroe, Louisiana.
I love the accent. Love the accent. All right. We'll see you there, Chase. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
That was Chase Coley. She leads all of our stuff on the girls' side. Also, she is probably the best hooper. Well, we won't even say probably. She's the best hooper of the staff. If you go look up, she's got some real statistics at the University of Iowa. Played really a great career there. So great genes, too. She's got a sister that just finished up in Nebraska. And the beautiful part is she knows the game. She's able to help these young ladies aspire to get to where they're going and be able to, make those dreams come true. A lot of big things happening on the girls circuit. Before we go, John, I don't know if this is possible. I'm throwing this on John here. Can we, by chance, pull up that clip one more time? Because we had to skate by it a little bit, but I want to see the half-court shot. That just was, you look at the highlights that happened. They're obviously great. Some great shooting here. But how often do you see a buzzer beater to that extent? Not very often, especially late in the clock. And you see here 2 seconds, 1 second. That was a complete half-court heave to make the shot. So I think that's got to be our play of the week. We are going to start with some play of the week submissions. We'll tell you later on the show how you can submit those, as well as the player of the week. All of those things and more coming up on the show next. But we got to take a quick break before we get to our final three guests, where we'll talk to a guest in Los Angeles, Dallas, and Atlanta coming up soon. Welcome back from the break. I am Matt Reynolds, and now we head out to another stop that was in session one, Seal Beach, aka Los Angeles. And we check in with Trey Sterner, our lead editor on our website. So go check out nxtprohoops.com. Him and his staff have so many great things out there with articles, both on the girls' side and the guys' side. And speaking of that, this was a dual tournament. So we had girls and guys. There was a lot more guys teams, just with it being a bigger event on that side. But regionally, it was a stop for the girls' side. And we want to start there, Trey. What was the most notable performance that you saw over the weekend?
Yeah, for me, the South Sound Roots Academy, 17U was probably my team of the week that I saw. They went 4-0 this weekend. Hayden Kaut is a star for them. I think she has the chance to have a really big spring and summer. Just in the first quarter of her game, she was 4 for 4 from three. Just 6'1" wing, super versatile, and flamethrower from beyond the arc. So really excited to see more of that team.
Hey, 4 for 4 in a game is good, much less in that short amount of time. So that's pretty impressive. Who are some other players that stood out to you on the girls' side?
Yeah, so a couple teams that had a really good weekend, Utah Hoops 16U and Utah Next Level 16U. Watched them battle it out this morning. Some girls that stood out in that game. Abby Bush for Utah Hoops was someone that myself and another scout both had written down as someone that stood out. She's a really good shooter, has some good height on the perimeter, and has just put in really consistent good performances all weekend. In the winner of that game, Riley Greenwood, she's a post for Utah Next Level. Great post presence, can stretch the floor from three, was physical on the boards, and was just really efficient offensively. She led the way for her team. And then they have a pair of freshmen playing up for them, Lexi Jackman and Molly Allen, that I thought played really well. Lexi Jackman is a tough point guard, defends really hard, takes care of the ball, got to the rim, and played a lot bigger than her height. And Molly Allen was a versatile wing that, showed some skill offensively, took it outside, made some threes, got to the rim. So overall, really impressed with the level of play here from the girls, especially in the 17 and 16s.
No, it's awesome. Our first stop out west. Again, a lot of talent. The girls' side continues to grow. What would you say? We were talking earlier with Will Harper. He was out in Boston. Obviously, the Northeast, the West Coast, the South, the Midwest. Everybody has kind of their different style of basketball. specifically on the girls' side, was there a big difference to what you've typically seen? Obviously, you're from Omaha, Nebraska, in the Midwest. Was it a different style of basketball? Similar? What'd you notice?
I thought it was pretty similar. I did one thing to note: Utah hoops was just a press and shoot threes. I really liked watching them. It was kind of a fun style of play. They were all over the place defensively, like to push it in transition, get threes up. So both them and South Sound Roots were both really good 3-point shooting teams. And that was kind of a trend on the boys' side as well, was just high level shooters all around. So I think that was something I really noticed throughout the weekend.
Let's flip to the boys' side, and we've got to start with Braden Kyman, who he just had an absolute great week. He's a Washington State commit. And I mean, basically looking at the highlights here that John is rolling, I mean, he went to work this weekend, Trey.
Yeah, absolutely. He's someone that I'm really excited to watch all spring and summer. Like you said, Washington State commit, 6'8" post. He can shoot it. He can go to work on the block, rebounds really well, can make passes, can take people off the dribble. So, whatever you need him to do on the offensive end, he was kind of able to do it. So definitely a fun play style for him.
And I think their team, Trey, I don't know if we're going to call them the favorite this early in session one, but they've got to be at least in that conversation, I would think.
Yeah, they were tested this weekend. They had a gauntlet of a schedule, but I was really impressed with them, and they're even missing a player to injury this week who I think could have a big summer, Jalen Williams. So definitely someone I would watch for a big summer. Will Malwall on that team was impressive as well, and they've got some really tough guards that like to play downhill and defend hard. So I think they're definitely a contender, I'll say.
Jalen Wells Elite is another contender out there on the West Coast, and they really entered this year with, I would say, a little different set of firepower. Obviously, they were with us a year ago. New name. They've got a player that's now gone pro, so congratulations to Jalen. Maybe we'll see him at the Memphis stop. But, you look at them, they seem reloaded to a different level with another level of firepower.
Absolutely. I was super impressed watching them. A couple players that looked really good this weekend. Hovind Dulé, I think, has a chance to be one of our biggest risers of the summer. He's 6'6" guard, has great size on the perimeter, shoots it at a really high level. I think he was around 40% on the high school season, and you could definitely see that here in Seal Beach. So just really skilled playmaker with the positional size you look for at the next level. So he's someone that I would expect to see colleges take some interest in.
Grayson Coleman and Jeremiah Kilbrew were another two athletes that really stood out, not just to yourself, but looking at the internet, there was a lot of people talking about their performances over the weekend.
Yeah, they look great with Team CPSA alongside their big men, Devon Duro and Taiwo Daramola. Those two really complimented them on the perimeter. Grayson's just super quick and shifty, shoots really well from three, showed great vision finding his bigs, and what really impressed me was his defense. He really pressured the perimeter, showed some quick hands to turn defense to offense and kind of get things rolling the other way, but he was exciting. And then Killebrew, he's a bigger guard, probably 6'5", got downhill. His balance and footwork in the paint was really impressive. He was able to get to the rim and finish with efficiency there.
You mentioned Devon on that team. He's one of the best 2028 prospects in the country. And this was his first week with us. So give me your first impression.
Absolutely. Yeah. Devon, I watched their first game, really impressed with him. He does not look like he's playing up a class. He's a big, strong kid, was dominant on the boards and dominant on the interior. They started the game trying to throw him a lob. So he has that kind of vertical athleticism. As he continues to develop and add some parts to his game, I think he has a real chance to be a top 10 prospect in the country in that class. Just with his potential, his athleticism, and some of the skill he shows. And I was also impressed with his motor. He ran the floor really hard. He was always on the glass. He probably had 5 or 6 offensive rebounds. So I'm very, very excited to watch him develop over the summer. And I know Clint Parks will work with him, and I know he's going to get better.
We know that. We've seen it with Joe Sterling, which is the perfect segue because Joe Sterling went off this week. Shocker to well, pretty much nobody. And you're seeing him here on the screen just dropping threes. Ball screens, he really seems to, I feel like, have grown to another step with being able to use that. It helps to have good bigs, but ultimately Joe is just on fire from everywhere, but especially from three-point range.
Yeah, Joe is almost surgical on the offensive end. I mean, he picks apart defenses and makes it look like he's doing it with no effort. I mean, the way he can hit from three, he's going to knock down open shots. His playmaking and pick and roll has really improved in the last year, I think, as he's gotten more reps in that. And he's just a sniper in the mid-range with his jumper or floater. So, I mean, I think as far as offensive players in our league, you're not going to find much better than Joe this year.
All right, John. Make sure that everybody hears this. I'm going to say this once and for all. If you don't think Joe Sterling is a high major player at this point, well, you're wrong. So congratulations. But the kid can flat out play. He's got all the tools you need to be very, very successful. But you talk about his offensive game. He's even grown leaps and bounds on the defensive end. Now, another player on that CPSA squad that has grown, and it might not just be on the court, but it might actually be literally he's grown, is Josh Irving. And I mean, after watching him, you see in here, he's blocking shots, he's running in transition, he's dribbling the ball in transition, pushing the break and dunking the ball. I mean, this guy, Trey, goodness gracious, he's come a whole different level than, the young player we saw a year ago. He's really developed very well under this Clint Parks umbrella.
100%. He looked like a different player to me this weekend than last year. And I saw a lot of Josh last year, kind of watched it happen throughout the high school season. He just kept getting better. But this weekend, I thought he was on another level. His physicality, the way he attacked the glass, attacked the rim. I think he looked like a guy that is finally realizing that he's the best player on the court, just with the way he dominated at times. So I think people are going to be kind of shocked when they see him this summer. And I expect some high major programs to come calling very, very soon.
So if you followed our circuit, we had Xavier Staten, who's headed to BYU, who at one point was unranked, joined our circuit, obviously had a fabulous 16U year with Las Vegas Knicks, 17s. He finished with BTI, and he developed with both those squads, blew up overnight with the Knicks, and then continued that development and just skyrocketed in the rankings with BTI. Another call my shot here, Josh Irving will be in the top 25 in somebody's rankings, if not everybody's. That's 247 ESPN on 3. Those are the 3 that we all look at. And I think he's going to be one of the meteoric risers, not just in our circuit on the Pro 16, but across the entire country. Trey, he just has so much of a different level. And it's something where we try to tell kids, look, your 16U year is all about development and getting better. And it feels like he genuinely took that to heart. It wasn't like he was playing the biggest role, but he played up last year. He played against guys like Xavier and played very well.
Yeah, you can tell he's put in the work this offseason for sure. And I even think, he still has stuff to unlock on the offensive end. He has really great touch, and you can see kind of the shooting developing. He can knock down shots from three. He can knock down shots from the mid-range. So I think as he continues developing, he could be a reliable pick and pop big. So I think the sky's really the limit with how athletic he is and how much strength he's added, and just the way he plays the game and his work ethic.
All right, Trey, we're running out of time, but we got to end on this for Los Angeles. Give me the best Nxtpro team that you saw that we haven't talked about. Obviously, we've talked about a few, so give me somebody that we haven't talked about that really impressed you.
Yeah, I got a shout out Factory here. They went undefeated, I believe, this weekend. Had a really good performance.
Way to go, Kenny.
Yeah, great weekend in 17U. They've really put together a team. James Stewart was someone that played with them last summer. He's an unsigned 25 playing with them right now. He was dominant in the paint. Adrian Stubbs, he averaged 27, 6, 5, and 6 in his high school season this year. He's been a big addition to their team, and I think that they're going to be a real contender in next play with Stubbs, Stewart, and then they have another great guard, TJ Harris. So, they're winning games, and I don't think they're looking to stop.
Well, last year, I think, the Factory squad was very good, but they got behind the 8 ball in the session 1. So it would appear they came a whole different level of preparedness. Obviously, they were super talented a year ago, and they've got another great group out of Arizona, as they typically do. Trey, thanks so much for your time. Again, nextprohoops.com. Check out all of his teams. Great work as well as himself, and a lot of good things going on the website. Appreciate everything you do for us, Trey.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
All right, next up, we're going to head to Atlanta. We've got Pablo Kong on to talk about that event. This is actually one of the events I attended. I was there Friday night over there at Next Play 360 in Marietta. And this is, an event that always has talent. And you look at the Southeast, everybody wants to go to Atlanta. And Pablo, first, welcome to the show. Good to have you back yet for another year. We appreciate your time as always. We've got to start with, some prospects that we've seen in the past. And frankly, when you look at our circuit, there's teams that elevate year over year. There's teams that kind of drop off. This OTP team with Colin Ross, they are one that, no doubt about it, has shown up last year, but it seems to have taken another step. And Colin in particular has taken another step over this offseason.
No, for sure, Matt. OTP, they just do OTP things. I like what they're doing over there with all the kids. They're always going to get good kids, and they have really, really good coaching. I think that's what sets them apart. And Colin Ross, man, I'll tell you what, I think this is another one you could call too, Matt. It's definitely a high major player, that colleges will be coming after very soon.
I could see Colin. I mean, you remember this guy from last year, Isaiah Medina, who played on our circuit, the Nxtpro side with Spates. I'm not saying they're identical, but you kind of remember how Isaiah was a fairly unknown player and then quickly went to known. It feels like that's the vibe we could see with Colin here over the calendar year.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I definitely see that kind of trajectory with Colin. He's improved so much just from last year. I think the last time I saw him was maybe August or July or something like that. And I mean, he's gotten so much better within that time. And I'm just like, man, the kid is impressive, and he's going to continue to get better. And as long as he keeps working hard, sky's the limit for him, Matt.
Antonio Hill with Young Stars 15U was a prospect that really jumped off to me on Friday night. And it seems like he caught your eye as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was actually my first time seeing him. It's first time seeing a lot of these kids play, but I've never seen Antonio Hill play. And I tell you what, that kid is a monster. I know it's 15U or whatever, but his potential and everything that he does on the court, his production on the court on both sides of the ball is amazing. I mean, the kid never stops. He has several in the game that I watched. He had several big time dunks. He had a lot of steals and a ton of blocks, and he scored a lot of points. So I think the sky's the limit for him as well. As long as he keeps working hard, I think nothing can stop him.
The connectivity that next generation 17U had on defense was something you really don't see all that often, period, grassroots. But Pablo, on top of that, this is session one. So to be as good as they were on the defensive end really, really stood out all weekend long.
Yeah, I think that's a product of coaching. And the coach's name slipped my mind. I cannot remember his name. I know you probably do, but I'll tell you what. So I talked to him before the game, before they played. I hadn't seen him since last summer, and I talked to him before the game, and I asked him, how's he doing and everything, just small talk. And I asked him how his team was, and he said that, he said, Pablo, honestly, we're gonna be pretty dominant. And I was just like, okay, that was a bold statement, but they went out there and proved it. They played a matchup 2-3 zone, and I'm telling you, Matt, nobody could score on them. Nobody could score on them. I mean, they were so connected as a team, covering for each other, a lot of communication and everything. So, and that's one of the things I say coaching matters. It definitely matters because he's definitely got them coached up.
You can see, especially week one, I feel like a lot of separation. And then obviously as we get into these matchups, this is one of my favorite parts about our circuit. Come week 4 or 5 and the best are matched up with the best. The middle is matched up with the middle and the bottom is matched up with the bottom. Well, then everybody's similar talent levels that are playing each other. And I think that's where you see coaching really shine through. On that note there, what was the biggest thing that you took away just from session one as a whole with all the teams and prospects you saw?
So a lot of young talent. It doesn't really surprise me at the talent that, that you get in this circuit. Because this is my second year with the circuit, and I'll tell you what, it's always a pleasure to come there and just watch, see young guys just step on the circuit, step on the stage, and really play well. But just as like a trend that I see a lot of teams trying to play fast. I think that's one thing that I saw in Atlanta. the courts are a little smaller. So, you know, everybody was pretty much trying to play fast. And I noticed that only a few teams could actually do it, you know, so it's not beneficial for everybody. But, you know, I mean, whatever floats their boat, that's fine. But, you know, I think they'll figure out, you know, some different ways to, you know, strategize and game plan for the next circuit. Because I didn't think that playing fast, you know, basically suited everybody.
The Rad Sports Elite Team Scoot game seemed to be one of the better ones of the weekend and just had a good atmosphere and, frankly, a lot of good prospects on both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I spoke to Team Rad's coach, Coach McTurius, another one of I say he's one of the top coaches on the Puma circuit for sure. He's got a team too that plays really connected on both ends of the court. The game was really good. I was looking forward to that game. You know, with Team Scoot, prospects everywhere, just like you mentioned. The game started out pretty rough for Rad Sports Elite. Scoot took a big lead. Rad Sports fought back into it. Ultimately, they fell in that game, you know, which is whatever. But you know, Team Scoot got some pretty good talent over there. They got a point guard over there that's kind of special. And he basically, you know, he pulled them through, past them to the finish line. So that game was a really good game to see. I was looking forward to that game to see how Rad Sports would deal with like the athleticism and the speed. And they did good. They did really well. And I thought that they would win the game, but I just, you know, they just kind of faltered towards the end. So, yeah.
Hey, it happens. I mean, we just saw it, Pablo, in the NCAA tournament just the other night. I mean, Florida comes back, beats Texas Tech late. Texas Tech the round before came back and beat Arkansas. Anything can happen down the stretch of these games. And, you know, March Madness for us goes on all the way through the spring and summer. On that note, I want to finish talking about, I know one of your favorite groups. They had an awesome season with us last year, and that's Team Ish. They've been elevated at that 16U level to Pro 16, and I feel like they took the tag very well this week and showed up and shined.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's another team that's, you know, really young team, but really, really talented. Coach Gerald really has them coached up well, and he lets those guys go out there and play and run. And I think they're probably one of the teams that, you know, playing fast suits them. They really, they didn't really have, well, they had one close game, but I think all the other games they played was pretty much blowouts. And that's going to be another tough group, Matt, another tough group to beat. They got some special talent over there, like I mentioned, and Parker Watkins and Travian Williams and a bunch of other guys now. I think their guard play is better this year than it was last year. So, you know, playing them is good luck. You know what I mean? You better be in shape if you're playing Team Ish.
Well, that says a lot about what you said there, because it wasn't like they had bad guards a year ago. They had good guards then. They just continue to develop and take it to a whole nother level. So, Pablo, thanks so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active at Coach P Kong. And then you just basically find me anywhere in the basketball gym, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity.
And he's celebrating his Duke squad that's headed to San Antonio. So we shall
Absolutely.
see. We'll see how far they go, but they got a chance to win the whole thing. You get to the Final Four, you did something. So congratulations to your squad.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me on.
That was Pablo Kong. Appreciate his time. Next up, we're going to go to our final guest of the show, and that is Ethan Piota. And Ethan was in Dallas, where I was at on Saturday. So much talent was in Dallas. You had TME, 17U Pro 16 there, and 16U and 15U. You had Southern Ties there in the house as well, YGC, and then obviously a slew of Nxtpro teams with a lot of talent that they had as well. So, Ethan, let's start with one of very quickly, the rising prospects in our circuit. Listen, after this weekend, I want to say some crazy things on this show, but I'll hold. I need to see a few more weeks before I go too bold. But Dawson Batee was absolutely incredible and put on a show for YGC 16U this weekend.
Yeah, and honestly, Matt, I think I'm not too surprised, and I know you aren't either, because it was kind of expected. But seeing in person Dawson operate, it became very apparent very quickly to everybody in the gym, coaches, players, scouts, media included, how impactful he was on both ends of the floor. I really, when I broke it down to somebody, I said, hey, start on the defensive end of the floor. And when you have a guy with his size, with his athleticism, and really with his feel, IQ, and anticipation, that is able to wreck a game defensively the way that he can, you can put him anywhere on the floor and he's going to make his presence felt defensively, which are always my favorite types of players to evaluate and watch. And so it starts on that end with Dawson. Travel over to the offensive side, and by no means is he a liability on that end either. He is their driving force, their primary engine, a guy, again, with the size and skill that he has. He continues to develop on the perimeter. Obviously, this is his first event with us, but watching him in past years, it's clear that he has made a concerted effort to improve as a range shooter over the past few months. And if he's knocking down shots from the perimeter consistently, it might be game over for that entire class. In terms of who is one of one in that class. I'll go out and say it right now after our first event. If he's knocking down shots the way he was this weekend, he's
got a chance to be the #1 player in the country in 2027. That's just the reality. Obviously, there will be some people that watch this and say, "Oh, well, he's on your circuit. Of course, you're biased." Look, I'm not going to say that we obviously want to root for all of our guys to be great, but what I'll say is this: he put him up against anybody. He's playing the way he did this weekend, because I think we're seeing a guy go from a power forward to a true wing at this point. He's getting that opportunity, Ethan. And, the player I can compare it to on our circuit, and they're not identical by any stretch, but he's at McDonald's All-American game this weekend, or getting ready to go play on Tuesday night. And that's Nicholas Kamania, who his entire career, most people have as a power forward. If you still look online, a lot of people still list him as a power forward. But if you watched him on our circuit, he was more of a point guard and can be a true wing, a point forward, if you want to call it that. I think where Dawson's at is he can be a 2 or a 3. He can shoot the ball. He moves well without the ball. But one of the biggest things is, and it's sad that this has become a big skill now, but playing hard when you're an elite player has become a big skill. And that's something that Dawson showed very effectively. He's going to go hard on both ends, and being a two-way player at, 6'8", 6'9"? I think he's pushing 6'9" at this point. He's going to be very, very hard to keep outside of the top 5. And again, I think he's going to be in conversation at some point over the next 2 years for the #1 player in the class.
Completely agree. And that's, I think, spot on comparison to what he does on the defensive end. Although Nick, who's been with us for several years, is a tremendous defender in his own right, it's a little bit more loud and apparent, and it can change a game. I think when you have the athleticism and just the overall activity that he brings. And similar to Nick too, not to compare the two because obviously they are different players. Nick headed to Duke next year, and Dawson obviously amazing in his own right as a prospect. But their mentality, it's very clear and apparent when you see a kid approach, especially at the 16U level, the game with as much maturity and preparation, I think, and confidence as Dawson does. And it's very clear just from watching him off court and interacting and obviously seeing him on court, that translates directly to what he can do to impact winning.
Sky's the limit. He's got a lot of potential on and off the court. Very excited to see Dawson with us over the next couple years and continue, because this is maybe the first time you're hearing his name if you're not from Texas. But it won't be the last. I guarantee you that. Big things coming for him. Another young man who had an awesome weekend was Tony Bryant. He's a very well-known name, enters our circuit as a top 10 overall prospect, as a 5-star overall prospect. He's got all the accolades, and, you're always looking to see, can the 5-star deliver? Is it loud enough to where it's like, yep, that's the 5-star? And I felt like this weekend, Tony did exactly that. He was very dominant inside the paint.
Absolutely. And that TME team, we have high hopes for that group. That 17U team, I think, it is a real contender, and it starts with Tony, and it started this weekend with him hunting a post-up in his first offensive possession, drop-stepping past a dude and putting it on somebody's head on the live stream. And I think that was an occurrence 3 or 4 times in the first half of that game. He seeks out contact. He wants to feel contact. He wants to finish at the rim. He wants to finish above the rim. It's very apparent he's not scared of contact or multiple defenders coming over. He's going to hunt and play above the rim. What which is extremely intriguing because I think physically, you know, his frame is nowhere near filled out by any means at this point, Matt.
Right.
He's, you know, you're not looking at him and thinking, oh, you know, that's a 2 or 3 year guy in college that's been playing for a while. Like some of the guys that we've had in the past, he's still very raw as a prospect. But to have that kind of approach that, hey, I'm going to put somebody on the rim every single play, and with him really not even tapping into the gifts that he has yet physically, ooh, that's another one that it's sky's the limit for Tony, and he's had a great weekend, and that TME team, Trey Man Elite, obviously super excited to have them on board with us this year. And you mentioned it, and I'm gonna call you back on it because I agree. I'm getting some vibes from 2022, 2023 with the one family group that we saw absolutely dominate everybody. I think they could be on a similar crash course, and that's a kind of a wake up call to the rest of the league that, hey, these guys are early contenders, every single age.
I did tell Tony and Hurley after one of their games, I said, now, hey, listen, it's going to get harder. You're going to play tougher teams once you get into that Pro 16 schedule May 2nd. And I did tell them that I think they drop a game at some point in the spring. So I'll have to make sure Justin, our scheduler, gives them some heat. Have no fear. We've got it. I think the league is – here's the difference. I think they're very similar to that one family group with Asa Newell and Isaiah Brown, who's in the Final Four with Florida right now, and the rest of the crew there. You look at their group. They had almost their whole starting five in the NCAA tournament this year. So they were loaded. And I think that's where it starts with Tony. But then you can go with Hurley Brutus. You can go down the line. Alex, their big was really, really impactful this week. Caleb Sanders is a guy that he's very effective on the wing. They're loaded. So it is going to be interesting. But like I said, it's on Justin to give him a little heat in Los Angeles. I think I've already got a few potential matchups. Maybe they see AAO out there, Select Basketball out there, maybe Las Vegas Knicks. We'll have to see who their fourth is. But, we got to save some really good matchups for the live period. We always do. But here's the beautiful thing. With 28 full-stop Pro 16 programs this year, there's a lot of real contenders. It's not just one or two anymore. It's become, I think at this point, 8 or 9, which – we'll put some odds out maybe later on in the year coming into the Pro 16 season of where things are at. Non-bettable odds. We're not Nxtpro Sportsbook. That's not happened yet. So, but we'll have some fun with it. Obviously, we've got some exciting groups. Speaking of that, as you look through, one of the most best parts of the weekend for me, at least, as I was watching on Saturday, was some Nxtpro teams push some of these Pro 16 teams, both at 17s, 16s, and 15s. And I think as you look through it, not a lot of them came out on top, obviously. But, Ethan, there were some teams, I think about Urban DFW in one of their games at 16U had a real chance to win that game against 3D Empire. I think about several other opponents, hard to guard, even pushed TME 17U Pro 16 in the first half and then just kind of ran out of gas. But there were some great opportunities for some Nxtpro teams to get some run against those Pro 16 top squads.
Yeah, that's the amazing part to this league, Matt, is the interaction that you get between multiple levels is something that you'll find nowhere else. That goes without saying going into this year, but that's as clear as ever heading into another year after just week one. You mentioned hard to guard, group of guys that was their first tournament that they've played together all year long. A lot of them, first time they've ever played with each other in an organized basketball game. And for them to push one of the early contenders in the entire 17U division to a 5 to 10 point game, if not closer, in the second half or the majority of the second half, definitely spoke volumes. They picked up a big win, Matt, over Fam Elite today. Hard to Guard did, which was definitely a bit of a surprise. Fam Elite
was undefeated going into it
with their opening game being a Pro 16 win as well. Fam Elite had. And that team is always tough, well coached, but speaks volumes to the depth that, and really the fact on our circuit that any given game, anybody can beat anybody with the talent that you have, at our disposal. It's truly fascinating to see some of the matchups that happen, and tremendous weekend. Miles Select 16U, giving them a shout out as well. They had a gauntlet of a schedule this weekend.
Yes, they did.
opened up with a game against that TME 16U squad, which I don't think we've touched on yet. But, man, that team is special as well. Took YGC 16 group with Dawson to overtime. Miles Select got a 1-point win this afternoon over a very, very good 3D Empire group with Bryant Robinson and a couple of other guys that have been playing very well. So big win for those guys, and awesome to see groups, especially in their first year, whether it's their first year, second year, third year with us, whatever it is, taking advantage of the platform, taking advantage of the opportunity, and really standing against the battle of these games.
Standings will come out each week. They're not ready yet, so they won't be released on this show, but they will be coming out. So check those at nxtprohoops.com. And what we can tell you is this: if you're a Nxtpro team and you get an opportunity against a Pro 16 team, it is going to help you. Worst case, it helps your strength of schedule and you lose the game. Best case, you win the game, and it's a heavy, heavy, heavy contributor to you potentially making the Pro 16 finals. And remember, all Nxtpro teams are competing in Orlando. Everybody goes. It's going to be a great time down there in Orlando. And amongst Disney World and Universal and all the other fun things that exist down there in Orlando is we're going to have a tournament, and it'll be seeded 1 through each team that's in the grade. And obviously we'll see who comes out to be a champion. So you want to get your best seed. You don't want to be seed 200. You want to be seed 1 or as close to 1 as you can get to, put yourself in best position for success. So that's what we're playing for. And this was session 1. So Ethan, I'll end with this. What was your overall biggest thought from session 1? So many talented Nxtpro teams across all ages competing in Dallas. What did you leave with?
Yeah, I think, it's always fun to see kind of who's who and get the overall lay of the land. Sometimes that leads to some lopsided games in your first session. Sometimes that leads to some really, really good matchups. I think overall we had some really, really good matchups. My overall takeaway from walking around every gym, going to a few different facilities that we had in Dallas this weekend, watching some of the younger guys play at 15U, we have an absurd amount of talent on this circuit. Whether you're Pro 16, whether you're Nxtpro, doesn't matter. There is an absurd amount of talent in the building. Visiting back, 2 years ago, one of our first ever events was in Dallas. And just running through my head, watching what we saw there, which included some tremendous basketball players that year as well. But comparing it to now, it's clear we have guys that are fit for every single level that are in the building. So that was my biggest takeaway for sure. And on top of that, 15U and 16U is better than it ever has been. I think
yes,
we'd be 2 of the first people to tell you over the past few years on this circuit, 17U has been the bread and butter. That's been the wagon. That's been the point of emphasis for a lot of these groups as well. 15U and 16U are coming this year. And it is going to be a battle in those divisions from the top on down. There's no more easy Pro 16 wins happening at 15U and 16U. That's not a thing anymore.
No.
It is clear the standard that has been set, and we've got some groups that are hungry at those age groups.
Well, you look at just in Dallas this weekend in the 16U, you had Dawson Batee, in my opinion, a top 10 prospect in the country. Henry Robinson right up there with him. Aaron Britt, Jomar. I mean, that's just 2 teams, by the way. There's so many more guys. So it's going to be a lot different in those ages, and you're going to see a ton of talent in that 27 class. We talked earlier on the show out in Los Angeles in the 28 class. You had Devon Duro. There's so many guys that, it's going to be a very, very different year in a good way. And, Ethan, Family, we mentioned them earlier. They obviously are coming off a 17U championship on the Nxtpro side. They made the Elite 8 in Pro 16. Early contender to definitely win it again and potentially make another deep run in the Pro 16 finals. But it just also shows with them losing today to a hard-to-guard team, the levels have continued to pile up at 17U, and it is deeper than it's ever been before as well.
Yeah, quick note on them too, Matt. 17U, that team, I think, was a standard Nxtpro team from last year, a set the standard Nxtpro team from last year that they had in terms of all 8 of those guys are going to be college basketball players. We're talking about Fam Elite. Their 15U group, I got to see them this weekend. watch out. That group went 4-0. They dominated everybody in their pool. Again, speaking back to 15U and 16U being deeper than ever, they've got two guys that I think are real prospects on that group. One is a 14U player playing up. The other is a 15U guy, Anthony Key, who I really liked. And I'm excited to see those guys throughout this year and track them hopefully to a finals run through Orlando.
It's going to be exciting. A lot of games to be played still, but week 1 is in the books. Ethan, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate the updates on Dallas.
Thanks, Matt.
That was Ethan Piota joining me. We've got to take a quick break, and when we come back, if you are undefeated, you're going to get a shout out. You're going to get some love. So we're going to go through the Nxtpro Sports app, which, by the way, if you haven't downloaded, take out your phone, download the Nxtpro Sports app. You got all of our schedules, all of our tournaments, all of our Puma exclusive gear shops are in there. There's so much great content, so much great stuff. Check it out. You get all your information there. But we're going to pull up the app, scroll through who went undefeated this week and was able to pull off a great start to their season with Session 1. Welcome back. We've had 5 great guests today. I am your host, Matt Reynolds, and our last segment, you'll get used to this. We're going to do a few things. In future weeks, we will have top plays. So looking forward to that. This week, week 1, we're recording here on Sunday. The show will typically release on Tuesday. For this one, we're going to get it out maybe a little bit faster than that, but just be on the lookout. Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central Time is when we will record the show and be able to have that live to you here on YouTube. Now, Player of the Week. That's something you can tag myself at Matt Reynolds and then 3 underscores after my name on X. I guess you can tag me on Instagram. It's the same thing. I'm not TikTok. Sorry, I'm not TikTok savvy, so you got to do something different there. I guess you got to be on X or Instagram for that one. But tag me there with hashtag Nxtpro Player of the Week, and we will nominate you and eventually shorten the list down and get it out for a vote. But we have to end the show this week with the best way to do it, and that's talking about the teams that went undefeated. It's hard to go undefeated, so let's get to it and start with our first spot of undefeated teams, which is Boston. Castle Athletics 12U, Castle Athletics 14U, Castle Athletics PRO16 15U. They've had a pretty good run there. When you talk about Castle Athletics, their young guys are really, really talented. So kudos to them for going undefeated. JH5 13U, Save Sports Elite 15U, JH5 15U, Rising Kings 15U, Toronto Select 16U. Some repeaters there. That's always good. Shows the program strong. The Village Warriors 16U, Carolina Wolfpack 16U, Bout a Bucket 16U. Good name, by the way. Great name. One of my favorites this year. Central Florida Heat, Save Sports Elite 16U, Cap City Scrappers 17U, the Village Warriors 17U, Save Sports Elite 17U, and All In Elite 17U, who we talked about earlier. That's your list for Boston. Hey, way to go. Undefeated week 1. It doesn't mean that you're going to for sure go into the Pro 16 finals or anything, but I tell you what, it's a good start. It's a very good start. Our next location up, we have Los Angeles. This is just the boys list. We'll get to the girls here momentarily. Mile Academy 16U, Every Edge Elite 16U, Reno Ballers 16U, Valid Knicks Elite 16U, Build Your Way Elite 16s and 17s. Hey, shout out to that program. Team Utah 17U Factory. Way to go, Kenny. Factory AZ 17U. Team Utah 15U. Team Utah 15U again. So a lot of Team Utah. They did very, very well this weekend. South Sound Roots 15U, SoCal Buzz 15U, AOSS 15U, Prominent Elite 17U, MUDVILLE Elite. Shout out to MUDVILLE 17U going undefeated, and Every Edge Elite repeats again. So hey, here's what you're seeing on some of these lists. Programs matter because you're seeing a lot of the same programs that are finding a way to go undefeated here early on in session 1. Our next spot up, we've got Atlanta OTP. They had quite the week. 15U doubled up there. Tennessee United 15U, Cap City Clutch 16U, Strictly Ballers 16U, Team Ish Pro 16 16U, Team Next Generation 17U, Florida Bayhawks. They were awesome this weekend. 17U, Team Ish 17U. NLMB Select, Brick Squad Monopoly, and Exclusive Hoops. A shorter list there in Atlanta, that means there was some competition. There was a lot of 3-1s and 2-2s. So we like to see that early on. Next up, we head to Dallas, which was the biggest undefeated tournament out of all of these. Wasn't the biggest tournament, though. So, yeah, I guess just the way it worked out, there were some teams that really dominated their pools. We'll start in 15U with SA Future Red below 0. AO Flight Next, SA Future Blue. Shout out to SA Future getting 2 in there in their own age group. That's impressive. D1 New Mexico, way to go, Malik. His club getting off to an undefeated start. Team Miami 15U, Invictus Red Storm 15U, Oklahoma Wolfpack 15U, Famelite Mace 15U. That's the team Ethan referred to earlier in the show. Above All Sports 15U and TME PRO16 15U. In 16U, it was Miles Select, Team Mindset, Southern Ties, Team Miami, Future Prep, Oklahoma Wolfpack, YGC Pro16, and Southern Ties Pro16. And last but not least, in 17U, TME Pro16, Gifted Scholars Athletes, 17s, DC Kings Denton in their home spot. They were able to get it done, not just with that team, but also with their DFW squad. Team Miami, Dallas DeFam, and Invictus Red Storm. That's your undefeated list. We've got one more, though, for you, and that is the girls' undefeated team list. Now, this is both locations, Rockford and Los Angeles. Chapman basketball, hey, way to go. You get 2 on the list. That's an accomplishment. Wisconsin Shooters, Chase talked about them earlier. What a great start they're off to. Pink Elite, same thing. They're rolling. They're going to be one of the clubs definitely to watch, especially that 16U group. The Iowa Battlers, I think we come away from this week on the girls circuit most impressed with them as they get both 16s and 17s to go undefeated. Utah Next Level 16U with a great weekend. Roots Academy 17U, and rounding it out, West Academy 17U goes undefeated. It was a great week, but it was just week 1, so there's so much more coming here on the Nxtpro show as we cover every single session, giving the prospects coverage at all levels, to all genders, being able to provide to you in this show both girls coverage, boys coverage, and so much more. Coming up next week, we are across the country yet again. We are in 4 stops, and as we look at next week, Springfield, Monroe, Kansas City, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Stay locked in. If you're not following and if you're not subscribing, first off, subscribe to this channel. We're going to have content on it all week long. Kana's Corner's getting ready to kick off this show, obviously. And then we've got a spectacular show coming up with a set of twins that are going to, frankly, be great on the show, but also hilarious. They're great entertainment in general. And again, all of this is meant to highlight the student athletes here and the teams and all of the success you guys are having on the circuit, both on the girls' side and the boys' side. So thanks for staying with us throughout the day. Thanks to all of our guests, all 5 of them. We really appreciate it. Until next time, you've been watching the Nxtpro show. I am Matt Reynolds.